Today, my guests are Nicole Grinnell and Liz Goddard. They have a unique company. It's called ccmyadmin. And today we're going to speak with them about how to utilize virtual assistants to make your business truly passive. But first, a quick reminder, if you like the show, please let us know. You can like, you can share, you can subscribe, and leave a comment. We love to hear from our listeners. Also, if you want to check out how attractive our guests are, be sure to check out our YouTube channel, and that's Commercial Real Estate Pro Network. With that, I want to welcome my guests, Nicole and Liz. Welcome to CREPN Radio.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
Well, I'm looking forward to speaking with you guys. I've got a little bit of experience with kind of what you guys are doing, and looking forward to talking with you more about it. But before we do, if you could take a minute and share with the listeners a little bit about who you are and your background.
Yeah, no, that's great. So we started ccmyadmin a little over 2.5 years ago. Liz and I actually both came from small businesses, which we transferred into the corporate world and actually worked together. I've been an executive assistant for owners, C-levels, et cetera. And she has an HR background. She was the HR director of a company that we both worked at. So we kind of decided to venture out on our own. We both have an entrepreneur in our blood. So it was something that we knew that we would want to do. And we decided to start this company because we saw that small businesses, entrepreneurs, et cetera, were not being serviced. They were not being able to either get the manpower, et cetera, as they grew. And so there was this niche in the market that we knew that we could fill between my administrative and operations side and her HR side that could speak really to the human capital cost of non-productive hours, et cetera. And that's really how we kind of started ccmyadmin.
Got it. And you are Nicole, correct?
I'm Nicole,
okay.
Yes.
And Liz, is there anything she left out, or we got the covered?
No, I think she covered it. I mean, really, we designed a business that really fit the small business owner's needs. We tried to give them the leverage of corporation without the fixed expense. And so that's what ccmyadmin's all about. And I know we'll probably go into it, but just as you mentioned, a lot of people have worked with virtual assistants, but what we're doing and the way we're doing it is different than any company out there. And so we're really excited about how we're doing the virtual assistant model.
Cool. Well, like I mentioned, a little bit of my experience. I think I've been on before it was called virtual assistant. When I was in college, I remember there was like Kelly Services or something like that. That I think one of my mom's cousins, said, "Hey, you should go do this." And I remember doing weird jobs like, one job was collating pages for a plumbing supply catalog. It was like a do not talk. It was kind of a weird job, but told my dad about it, and he goes, there are machines that do that. And also ended up like at Sears Service Center as an assistant to the air conditioning repairman kind of thing. But then more recently, though, I have employed a virtual assistant, and I think that's probably more of where my curiosity lies in your approach to this, and how you guys go about it. Because I know it's not, it's not the easiest thing to find quality people and understand the task and all that. And my hope is that, by in talk with you guys, we can, relay or cite some examples you think that might be useful for real estate professionals. I mean, obviously real estate professionals running small businesses and stuff, but the audience is primarily real estate professionals and investors. And when you're starting out small, you got to grow. And what's one of the first things you need to do? Hire somebody to help you, right? Yeah. So let's start. How long have you guys been doing ccmyadmin?
So a little over 2 years. Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned that you got the idea based on your experience. You both had some experience in business and recognized there was kind of a gap. Did I get that right?
Yeah, so we actually both grew up with fathers that were entrepreneurs. We were raised in small business households. Ultimately, Liz and I became the staff for each of our families. And we knew there was kind of this gap while you're growing where you can't really afford to hire full-time help or even part-time help, but there's still these tasks that need to get done, operationally speaking. And so that's really kind of where the idea came out of. Essentially how it snowballed was I was getting asked by small businesses, hey, would you mind, doing some reports for me? Or could you do my expense reports? And there were these little tasks that they wanted to delegate out. And after about 6 months of doing that, I realized, I think this is a real need. And so where it started is just doing some, menial administration for small businesses. It snowballed now into just an entire back office team that we're able to support.
One of the things that we saw was that they didn't just need an admin. So we see a lot of virtual assistant companies out there who are trying to support just the owner. But as we started learning the businesses, and we got a really unique perspective because we get to see behind the curtains of so many different types of businesses, specifically in the real estate investment and real estate industries. But we saw that there was more than a need than just someone to watch somebody's inbox or do their calendaring. We saw there was a need to build a team and in different areas, such as client service, maybe someone to do contract management and CRM management. You need a marketing team, you need an accounting team, but small businesses, they can't afford to do that. If you ask a small business owner what the next step is after kind of maxing their time out and their resources out, they would say, I'll hire one person. And that's my favorite conversation to have, because I talk to the business owner and they say, well, here's what I need done. And it's this laundry list of tasks. I need someone to be my graphic, they don't say this, but essentially I need someone to design the logo. I need someone to balance my books. I need someone to book my calendar. And essentially they've been hiring one person and they've been failing. And that's because you've just identified 7, what we call zone of geniuses, but you're asking one person to be a genius in all of those areas, when really we're very good at 1 to 2 things. And so what we designed is a team to handle those 7 things, but maybe it's just an hour of client service a week. Maybe it's 2 hours of inbox management and 3 hours of bookkeeping a month. You're getting everything you need done, but you're only paying for productive hours. So now the small business owner has the ability to run a business the way a larger corporation has, but without the overhead and with no fixed expense. And in that way, we are very, very different than any other staffing or virtual assistant company.
That's a lot you laid out there. And I guess one of the things that you mentioned was, you need to hire somebody. And I was wondering if you could identify, because I'm assuming there's a comparison, between somebody hiring direct as opposed to using ccmyadmin. And can you kind of compare that? I mean, I know it's not the easiest thing to put an ad, online or whatever, and interview 5 people and all that kind of thing to get a person, and you don't know if they're going to work out, kind of thing. Can you kind of do a comparison between, the traditional way versus the ccmyadmin?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we know it well. So when you think of hiring a traditional employee, there's a lot of factors you have to look at. One is, you nailed it on the head, you actually have to recruit. So you need to find somebody who has the skill level that you need, industry experience, and that's a good culture fit. So that alone is a challenge. But if you jump that hurdle, then you have to make sure that they're happy. So retention is key, especially in today's employment market. You need to make sure that you're managing them, that you're giving them all the information they need to be successful. And on top of that, you have to make sure that they have a career path. So what we've done is we've identified that all of those things a small business owner can't necessarily do well with the budget that they have. And so what we do is we remove the pain. We do all the sourcing, we do the matching, and that doesn't cost a percentage of what they're making. It's all lumped into one to price. We make sure that you have a relationship manager that's going to help manage them. So now you don't have to hire somebody to do payroll or to make sure that they're engaged or managed appropriately. And if you don't have work, you don't have to pay them. So with a traditional employee, you have to guarantee them so many hours. Maybe it's 20 hours a week or 40 hours a week. With us, it could be 1 hour a week, or it could be 40 hours a week, just depending on what your business needs. And so we say we don't want to saddle it with that fixed expense.
No, I love that. And from the the amount of work that needs to be done, can it vary from, week to week? Is it, and let me ask maybe the question like this. Do you find that when people first hire, are they usually like a task oriented or like a campaign? Is there some sort of like I need this for this amount of time, or is it the flat out, I need somebody to do just this ongoing?
It varies. Majority, I would say 80 to 90% of our clients are ongoing roles. So they really need someone day in, day out who's going to help run that side of their business. The whole goal that we have with our clients is so that they can scale. So a lot of times they pause on hiring an employee because they don't have 40 hours of work or the budget to hire somebody. But they really need somebody maybe 2 hours a day. And that way they can go out, get business, bring it in, and our assistants make sure that all the client's information is gathered, that any contract needs to be signed is signed, that they're onboarded appropriately, and that they're billed accurately and on time. And so essentially, now you've got an operations team to help run your business, but it's just fractional. So you may just need them 2 hours a day, but as you grow, the more you buy into that, we call it like a philosophy, is if you build the right team and load it up, then your business will grow and you now have traction to do so.
Oh, I love that. Curious, you mentioned about the amount of time, and I know it's been a while since I've seen this, but I think there was some sort of report floating around a while back, just talking about the actual productive hours that people actually work. If in a 40-hour work week, how many of those hours are actually put to production? Do you have any stats on that? It seemed like I was shocked. It seemed to me it was like maybe a little over half or something, because the rest of it was like either goof off or, chit chat, or it didn't really add up to dollars and cents on the bottom line kind of thing.
Well, when Nicole and I started the business, we started asking executives that we respected, and we don't have an independent study to cite, although we should probably look that up. But we did our own internal research, and we asked the executives that we've worked with or that we respect, and we said, if you're hiring somebody 40 hours a week, how much do you think of work you're actually getting done? And the consistent answer was between 30 to 32 hours, and maybe less than that, because so much of it is they write off to say, like, we know we're not going to get true 40 hours because it's just the way you do business. And Nicole and I it didn't sit well with us. And being in HR, I saw how much time was being wasted, how much money was being used to retain, and that it wasn't actually working. And then I know Nicole can speak to having supported C-levels and hearing their frustrations.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing. And I will say mine even goes back more to when we were growing up and living in entrepreneur households, is you would see the employees that are wasting time while that your parents are paying them and they're, piddling around doing whatever. And there's just so much downtime that small businesses absorb by bringing in those roles in-house.
Yeah. So you've kind of touched on the different types of tasks. I'm kind of curious, is there a level of, high level to low level kind of, ability for these admin?
Yeah. So what also, like, to piggyback off what Liz says, is we really kind of bring in people with various skill sets so that we can really source and provide the quality of candidates. Everyone is US based. That's a big question that we get a lot. So absolutely everyone is US based. We do the internal screening process. We do a simulation on the computer of just various different skill sets. But if you get a bookkeeper with you, you're going to have someone that is, QuickBooks certified, has been a bookkeeper. Maybe their experience in the past was working with accountants. We're not going to bring in, Susie, who just really loves to balance her checkbook. And so that's really how we differentiate people, is bringing them in to the skill set that you need and what they're able to provide.
No, that's great. So bookkeeping, scheduling, kind of, I guess, processing, is that kind of the range of tasks that you are able to fulfill?
We fulfill that some of them, but the products, the service items that we provide are so much more because every company is different. But I know your audience is primarily in the real estate industry, and so we handle, if let's say people have multifamily units, and we handle all of the property management for them. We make sure that their bookkeeping is done per property to ensure that each P&L of the property accurately shows what you're making or what you're losing on that property. We do posting if they need to find tenants. We help them do that. We help with people in the podcast industry. We write show notes. We do graphic images. We do, it runs the gamut. But anything from operational or administration, we handle.
Got it. Do any of these admin, or are they engaged in any kind of outbound, outbound kind of client-facing work, or is it primarily all the support work?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they're really a team member. One of the things that actually Liz brought in probably a year or two into starting the company was really focusing on making sure that you as the client know that this is your team member. This isn't somebody that comes in to randomly do some tasks. They're a part of your team. Most of our assistants will have a client branded email. They will be communicating with those clients. They're really considered, to the outward facing, they have no idea that this assistant is maybe based in Indiana and the client is in California. They're part of the team and it's structured that way.
Oh, that's awesome. We talked a little bit about whether or not they're ongoing task, or if there's a campaign-oriented kind of a employment. I know one of the frustrations I've seen and experienced in the workplace is the lack of longevity of a lot of hires. It's like, they're hired, they show up for 3 days and they don't even make it for the full week. They just no call, no, I'm just kind of curious. Is there any kind of if one of your admin, says, hey, this one isn't working out. I mean, do you have a backup? Is there, what kind of backup plan is there for I guess your client?
Yeah, so I'll kind of take that question in twofold. So the first part, we totally get the longevity aspect. And of course we would love a crystal ball to protect everyone's, future. But when assistants are hiring or coming to us to be hired, they're really choosing the lifestyle. So whether it's they want to be at home to be able to pick their kids up off the bus, or maybe they're retired and they would just like to pick up a few hours and use the skill sets they used to have in corporate world, they're choosing the lifestyle. They're not really coming to us for a career path that they will then advance and move on. So that's one thing, is we have a higher retention rate because of that. But secondly, things happen, right? Maybe it's not a good match. Maybe there's some outside circumstances that we need to swap that out. And we really pride ourselves on being able to get you another qualified candidate within 24 hours. We spend a lot of our time keeping our CRM database full of qualified candidates that are ready to step in. And as you know, when you lose a traditional employee, you've got to start from scratch, right? Your resourcing, your screening, your training, all of that is all absorbed with us. We kind of consider that, hey, that's on us. We will get you someone in. You only pay for training one time, which is your first assistant. So if we have to switch out Susie, you get Brenda in free of charge. So that's a big benefit because you really don't have any downtime. And as well, that kind of extends over into vacation time, personal time. If you say, hey, I know you got to take a vacation, but I got work that I need to bring in, we'll bring a sub in for them for you for that. So you don't see any downtime in the work that you need completed.
Wow. No, I think that right there would be appealing to a lot of people. It just seems like that as flexible as workplace has become, how little communication actually is done sometimes based on the voicemail of I'm out, I'm on vacation, my backup, right. And you get that person, you get the same message, and it's a circle, like you're supposed to call the other person.
Right.
But so what's the longest relationship you've had between a client and an admin?
Start to finish. Yeah. I mean, we have one, she's actually a legal assistant, and she's been with us from day one. I mean, we started in May and she came on June 1st, and they're still together. And actually that attorney has left to go on to another firm and has transferred his entire team with us. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, we really do have great longevity because, like I said, they're coming to us. Both sides are coming to us for different reasons than the traditional model.
And we price it so we do our pricing based on what you would pay total comp for an employee, and maybe just under. And the reason is we want to incentivize people that it's not like you mentioned Kelly Services earlier, which that's a staffing company. So they're
Right.
going to take a percentage off the top, and then they're going to pay their the contractor or their employee. But again, it's temporary. So what we want to do is we want it to be a long-term relationship, but we want to provide efficiencies. So it's the same price that you would be paying if you hired this person W-2, total comp. And when I say total comp, that would be insurance, benefits, taxes, paid holidays, all the things that are, kind of required in order to retain a good employee, broken down by the hourly rate. And so we stay there because we want to be competitive. We want to incentivize people to stay on board with us. And more than that, they're only paying for productive hours. So instead of paying that hourly rate extrapolated over 2,080 hours or in a workable year, now you might be only paying $1,000. So you're paying the same hourly rate you would be if they were a full-time employee, but you're only paying for time they're actually providing work to you. So there's huge cost savings. And if you wanted a visual diagram, you can check out our website, ccmyadmin.com, and we have a breakdown illustrated of what it costs to employ somebody versus what it costs to bring on a virtual assistant.
No, that's great. You beat me to the price question. That's usually something you want to know. So you mentioned training. The first. What's a typical training time? I mean, is it an hour or two, or what do you anticipate for that?
Yeah, so it's kind of structured in two ways because it's really going to depend on the role
Right.
and how in depth that needs to be. But what we do is we do just what we call an onboarding fee at the beginning, which is just a one-time cost, which covers your sourcing of the candidate and your first hour of your onboarding call with your assistant and your relationship manager. That's a piece I don't know that we've actually discussed. But the other part of that is that you are assigned a relationship manager, and this person is almost like a free consultant at your disposal. So if you are having issues with the assistant, if you want to add items onto the assistant, if your business is growing, I mean, I can't tell you how many emails we get just like, hey, do you guys do this? And that's really what your relationship manager is there for, is to go and source that for you. And just like you would go to a consultant where you're like, what should I do next? I'm thinking about this role. She's there as kind of an advocate for your business and your assistant. But to go back to the training part of that, we typically see about an hour to two of training. And a lot of that comes in just, getting technology set up, which is why we do that kind of one-time flat fee for the first hour of training. And then after that, it's really just learning the logistics of how you need things done within your company and how things work. So that's going to vary from client to client.
And the people that we're assigning to your account, they're not just straight up college, they're experienced,
Right.
educated talent. And so it's not like you're having to teach them, well, this is how you do this project. They already know, like, this is what they do. They're good at it. We've hired people who are incredibly strong in that area. You just teach them how your company likes to do it. So I was talking to an attorney yesterday, and she said, so I'll just have to teach them that I like this font and this formatting versus this is how you draft a brief. And that's a great example of the type of training you're doing.
And Liz does a really good job when she's speaking with clients. Liz actually handles the sales. I'm more operations, of saying, what are the systems that you use day in, day out? Are you G Suite? Are you Microsoft? What's your CRM? So that when it comes over to my desk, I can source and say, well, you know what? Sally really knows G Suite in and out. It seems like a heavy-handed G Suite role. They're going to need to know that. So we're going to probably push the technology aspect more if that's a client's preference.
Got it. One of the things that I experienced, and I think I shared with you that I've hired a VA before, and I'm currently an employee, but it was for some outbound calls to try and prospect, kind of thing. And what occurred to me and what I ran into, I'm just kind of curious if you guys run into this, is that the client, your client, while they need help, they don't really understand what they need. And, or breaking it down to where they can explain it to somebody, because either the way they've been doing it is either they've just done it themselves, or they've always had somebody that did it and they didn't understand what was being done. And I'm kind of curious, do you guys have a system to work with people like that?
You're looking at her. She's very good at that.
Well, and it's twofold. One is people don't always, especially in small business, they've created this awesome business, and it's their baby, and they do it all. And so they need help breaking down that this is not just a role that only the owner can do. I had them walk me through, like, what are your pain points? What are your goals? And together we kind of set up what we call this delegation list. Like, in a perfect world, you have the unlimited budget. This is what you would delegate. Okay, yes. Well, this is what it would cost. Are you there? Well, no, I actually need to be half that. Okay, well then let's prioritize which actually get you the furthest if you delegate. And so now we've just created this basically job description. Whether you use us or you move on, hire someone directly, you now have that. And so that's part of just the onboarding process. And then we go into personalities. So we would say, you know, what's your personality like? We might even have you take a personality test, because we make our virtual assistants take those. And we say, well, what do you work best with? And who's your best partner in work? And so we come at it from not only a tactical skill set level, we come at it from a personal and a chemistry level. And so it's educating them on, you know, what their business needs. And then from a technology standpoint, helping them keep track of what they're doing, and so they understand how much time it takes, and, you know, where they can tweak some of their processes. Our software records when our virtual assistants are working and what they're working on. So there's full transparency from the minute they clock in to when you get your invoice of how that time is being allocated. It's all measurable.
Oh, that's great. I was going to ask you I guess the interface between the admin and the employer. You mentioned that they would have like a client email address, but how is it that you're able to monitor all of these these keystrokes or whatever it is? If I mean, are they working in your system and then it goes out? I'm just kind of curious on how you do that. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, so it really is like back to that whole team member thing. It's just as though you had hired a full-time employee, right? They would come on, get access to the systems that you have, whether it's logins to your CRM, maybe a copy of your inbox, your calendar, et cetera. And everything's web-based now, right? So they're going to come in just as a team member would to your company. The parts that we provide are, one is a cloud-based system, which is to store anything that is related to the client, whether it's training, confidential, et cetera, is something that we have internally. And that's one, for confidentiality. Two, for, you know, if the whole, like, Susie gets hit by a bus, you aren't just completely out. We have everything documented and ready to bring somebody in for you. As far as the actual, like, when are they working, how are they working, we have a system called HubStaff. And it's actually a timer-based system that you literally just hit start. The assistant is required to put all notes in. You're billed literally down to the second. And then as soon as she's done with those tasks, she's going to hit stop, put exactly what she worked on. It's going to show the time, the date, the location, so that when you get your bill as the client, you see, okay, I see she worked Monday from 8 to 10:30. She completed these tasks. Yes, that should be about 2.5 hours. You're able to verify. And that's really for two reasons. One is to make sure that she's completing the tasks that you need. And then also just to make sure there's no kind of training issues, or maybe Susie is just wowing you off your pants and that used to take 7 hours to do. But it allows you to really be transparent on how long it is taking and what tasks are being completed each day.
That's awesome. We've talked a little bit about some of the benefits for the employer, kind of the cost you can hire as you grow. Are there others that are obvious that we haven't talked about, or?
Benefits. One benefit that we haven't discussed is, not only are you saving your money from just a working capital standpoint, or a human capital standpoint, you're saving money because people don't have to buy bigger offices as they scale. So that's something that is weirdly overlooked. And it's funny, a lot of time on sales calls, people are coming to me because they're looking for space to lease. And when I say they never have to come in, they go, so you're telling me I was about to lease a space so I could have my admin come in? And I said, that's silly, like save $1,200 a month. And so either A, they don't ever have to get an actual footprint. It can just remain virtual, or they can fill up the office space they have with revenue generating roles. A great example would be if you're a real estate brokerage. You would want your realtors to have a place to come and either bring clients or be able to work there because they actually generate revenue. You don't want to fill up that space with people who are costing you money. Same with attorneys, right? They fill them up with associates and partners versus admins and paralegals, because if there's an admin to paralegal for every attorney, you'd have to double the size of your footprint of your office. So you save money from an overhead standpoint.
No, that's great. I'm sure a lot of employers or business owners can totally appreciate that, as that's need for space and the cost. What about benefits for the admin, the employee? I mean, we talked a little bit about lifestyle. Can you speak any more to that? Is there any?
Yeah, well, this is probably more my passion because I worked in corporate America for a long time, was an EA, quit to stay home and have with kids. And I just kind of fell off the face of the working map, right? That's what you're focused on. And not only from a financial perspective, but honestly, just a mental perspective is kind of staying in the game, doing things. It would have been life-changing if I could just work an hour a day or 2 hours a day, and kind of keep some of those skills sharp. And so what this is really offering is a way for whatever lifestyle choice, we have millennials that just want to travel, right? Like they don't want to be locked down. They want to have their work and work off deadlines. We have retirees that, want to just make some extra money and contribute to their retirement. And then we have stay-at-home moms that are in a life stage where they just really can't get out of the house to do that. And so for them, the benefit is truly providing for their family, giving them the lifestyle that they want, and keeping their skills sharp should they ever want to enter the workplace down the line. And so for those reasons, it has really given us a great retention rate because they're just not in a position for whatever life choices they have to try to go and have some, career in the corporate world. And so it's really bridging that gap. And I know Liz can talk to this too about the whole women in the workplace, and you take all these women out once, maternity and childcare comes in, and it's just lost resources. And so this is kind of giving them that option, as well as employers.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a huge deal. I mean, on both sides there, with the still having staying connected and having some sort of a sense of contribution. A thought occurred to me, and I was telling you about early on in my Kelly services. One of the employers I worked for actually tried to hire me direct. I'm just kind of curious, have you had that experience? Have your clients, have they tried to hire your people direct?
Yeah, so they have, and we always say we're never going to stand in the way of one of our virtual assistants or companies if that's what makes sense. It's happened, I guess, I don't know, about 5 times. Yeah. But what we find, it's interesting, is the reason we're in business is because we think in a lot of these roles, it makes more sense to do it fractionally than to hire on as a W-2. And I would say 3 out of the 5 wanted to buy them out. And we said, absolutely, we'll do that for you. We charge the way Kelly Services would. We do like a 20% recruiting fee for that. And but either that company ran out of money, or the person got sick, or they got pregnant and had to leave. And so we want to take the pain out of employment. And when they brought on them as W-2s, they ended up either having to let them go, not having the funds, or the actual person moved on. Whereas if they had never left us, that would have been our burden. We would have replaced them. We would have paid to train them. So it just further proves that our business model is where it needs to be. Yeah. But if we're never going to hold somebody back, if they want to go on as a W-2 and the client does as well, we'll go ahead and transfer that over.
That's funny, the thinking that somehow you're going to get, cut out the middleman or something like that on that kind of thing. But you just brought up all the reasons to make sure that you have, an ample supply of capable people behind to do that. Or even from the employee standpoint, what if the employer isn't as strong as perhaps they ever thought or whatever, and aren't able to continue to treat you well.
Well, I was going to say, like Liz was saying earlier, is we're really trying to get away from being seen as this premium service, right? That should end at some point, because really our rates are comparable to what you would do a direct hire in. So we're giving you almost a safety net of should anything go wrong with your assistant, we're there for you. We're there to bring somebody in free of charge, and so kind of trying to shift that mindset as though, like you said, cut out the middleman is really you're going to pay this on the open market, bring it in, so.
Or more.
Yeah.
And when clients do come to us and say, I think I'm ready to bring them on full time. We just say, like, well, let's talk through that. Why? And a lot of times it's, well, isn't that just what you do?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it's what you can do, and we're not going to stop you, but let's look at the numbers. Does it make sense? And most times it doesn't, right? And so and there's power in being able to call your relationship manager and say, hey, I need somebody who has property management experience or bookkeeping in multifamilies or a paralegal, and we have somebody in 24 hours. There's power in that, and just knowing that we're backing it. So we actually don't have a big issue with people trying to hire them out from under us. Well, answer your question.
Well, that's great. So just as a kind of a summary question, who's an ideal prospect?
An ideal prospect, really anybody in business is an ideal prospect, but I'll kind of hone in on what would be like our perfect referral or perfect prospect would be somebody who has been in business between 1 to 5 years. They have a general idea of the workflow coming in and what's needed, but they just haven't taken that next step. And the industry is really endless. Again, specific to your podcast and your listeners, it would be somebody who has maybe is a doctor or an insurance agent, but has this real estate investment business on the side and wants it to be passive. Truly passive, not passive income that you're actually working an additional 30 hours after you get off of work. So really wanting to streamline that and believing in the efficiency of hiring out. That would be an ideal candidate for us.
Got it. So as I mentioned before we started recording, by day I'm an insurance agent. And if I can, I'd like to shift gears here with you guys just for a second. And as an insurance agent broker, I work with clients to assess risk and determine, what to do with the risk. And we typically consider one of 3 different strategies. One is we can avoid the risk. The other is we can minimize the risk, or if need be, we can transfer the risk, which is what an insurance policy is. And recently I've started asking all of my guests to identify what they consider to be the biggest risk. And so, I'm not necessarily looking for an insurance-related answer, but I'd love to ask you, Nicole Grinnell and Liz Goddard, what is the biggest risk?
So I'll answer this question because all I see is risk. I'm the person in the partnership who I was in HR, so all I did was evaluate and mitigate risk all day long. So I would say let's point the question towards employment, because there's a lot of risk that comes with employment. If you are not prepared to hire somebody or don't understand everything you need to be doing as an employer in the state that you are working in, there's risk. There's serious risk, especially with all the employment laws. So we had a client who had employees and didn't know that she had to have workers' comp insurance. And then someone filed workers' comp, right? And so it is
in the worst state that you could possibly do that in.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of little things that you just have to know if you're going to employ people. If you do not know them, you need to find somebody that does, or you need to hire a company like one of ours who can help you dance around that or show you what you need to be doing. So there's a lot of risk that comes with employment. And also there's risk that comes with working with contractors as well. And you really need to know those very clear cut and defined lines because it is an expensive mistake to make.
Got it. No, and even a thought occurred as you mentioned that are the admin are they employ? They're not employees of the client, are they? They're employees of ccmyadmin.
They're contractors of ccmyadmin, and they are not contractors of the client.
Okay, so it's not an employment contract then per se, but you're absolutely right. You bring that up. I've had numerous conversations with customers, and they thought because they saw the work comp deduction on the paycheck that was covered. So not so. Well, guys, this has been a lot of fun. I've appreciated all your, all that you've provided as far as information, and truly, I think that anybody that's in, business period, especially real estate, when you're looking for somebody or you need help, but maybe not a full-time help, or you just need some back office support. It seems like you guys have got it covered and be a great opportunity for people to take advantage of.
We appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. And before we wrap up, what is the best way for listeners to connect and learn more?
They can visit us at our website. We drive everybody there. It's www.ccmyadmin.com. You can fill out a request form. We'll reach out. You can chat with us. And, if anybody comes that has listened to your show, any of your listeners, we're going to give them 50% off of the onboarding fee that Nicole mentioned earlier.
Was that 15 or 50?
50% off.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. Great.
So we're super thankful for opportunities to get to speak about what we love to do. And we're appreciative of you and your listeners for having us.
All right. Well, I can't say thank you enough. Like I said, I've enjoyed it, learned a lot, and I hope we can do it again soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having us.
All right. For our listeners, if you like this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, the more you know, the more you grow. That's all we've got this week. Until next time, thanks for listening to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CREPN Radio.